Just keep hanging there, sleazy. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Hey, Metastep. Very cool. Made chili almost for scratch. Nice. Had the nephew over early. It's cool. Nice. Sounds like you guys have been having a nice evening. Make sure everything's working appropriately. Looks like it is to me. Hello, Bong Donkey. How are you? He's a gamer just like Uncle Derp. Nice. Well, I'm going to be up front. I thought about it. Unless anybody has anything to discuss right off, I'm just going to read Aesop's Fables. That way, no one really has to think of anything. Because I'm clever like that. Why'd you get pissed off at Krigler? Hey, bub. Ah, crap, I forgot that didn't get on here yet. Damn it. There we go. Yes, you are loved. Anyway, yeah, so why are we mad at Krigler? He's static. The frog is loose. I repeat, the frog is loose. Hey, Jack, how's it going? I think. Yeah, I'll have to figure out how to. Oh, I bet I could. Oh, I'm sorry, Metastep. No, nothing like that. Oh, I mean, that happens. Hold on, let me figure out one thing because I'm redoing some things. I'm trying to decide for this freaking stream I'm doing on the 31st. I want to do restream, but to do what I want to do with restream, I have to give them either $100 or $1,000. And I'd rather do the 1,000 really because that pays for it for a year, and then I can do the thing whenever I want. But I don't have $1,000. So I could just do the $100. But I'm still thinking about it. I'm gonna sit down and look at my finances a little and see what I can manage. Hey Paul, how you doing? There we go. Checking some real quick, guys. Okay, I think. Sorry, I'm looking at adding this on screen, the chat that is for this screen. And so I'm just trying to see how it'll work. I bet I could get that to work. Do. Hey, Photoxis, thanks for popping by. Let's see if this works. No, that's not what we want. That's what we want. Okay, that's not going to work. Is there a way to... it's a different thing. So this, if I can get it to size the way I want it to, will actually let's see here. First, let's get the size right. No, it's the other way around. So I want the height to be, hold on, we're going to have to delete that. Got this extension that if I do this right, will pop you guys up here on screen. I think that's a little wide, isn't it? Quick, someone say something. Yeah, I think I'll make that a little smaller. 1 second. Thank you, Jack. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? This is part of why I wanted to do this. Was to give me the time to fuss with this. So then I know I want this to be what? That to be... And hit OK. Oops. Then hit OK. There, I think I like that better. There. Now it'll show up over there when you guys start talking again. Since everybody is here, at least I assume everybody's here. Like a button, smacked like a button. Oh God. Yeah, there we go. See, that works nicely. Now you guys can see what you're saying, and if anybody is on Rumble or Kick, it'll also show up in there. So that's kind of cool if you ask me. So then, hey Ruben, how you doing? I did get your DM, Ruben. I've got to talk to a couple people because I personally don't know anybody in that area, but there may be things that I can hook you up with. I just have to do some research. Oh shit, Shadow, that sucks. In November, that's short notice. That's kind of assholey. Hopefully you can find a job quick. I'm sorry to hear that. Yep, see, there you are. Right there, Meta. Wonder if I should get rid of the time stamp on that. Trying to decide. Eh. Either way. Now that I've done that, like I was about to say, yeah, hopefully hopefully find something better. I have an affiliate. If you are interested in coffee mugs, t-shirts, what just anything you might need to fill in your home or your laboratory, I am now an affiliate of Evil Labs or evillaboratory.com. With my link or my code, you can get 10% off. And yes, fitting. Find yourself something real cool. So you can either use the link, or if you happen to pop by there yourself without the link and use code HORRORAMARADA, you get 10% off. I'm glad you liked it. I don't know. That doesn't technically count as a sponsorship, does it? Maybe I should have clicked the sponsor button. I don't know. I'll figure that out later. YouTube's kind of weird on that. It's not like they're paying me to stream right now. I can show you their website, though. I can do that. Oh, that was silly. I should have just done... I hate doing silly things like that. Oh, that's a really cool idea, Ruben. I hope it works out. I don't know how well you can do that from here, though. But we'll figure it out. What kind of things do you think you would do as a producer? That's what I need. There we go. That's a little irritating. I can't really do anything with that. Anyway, so they got hoodies and a bunch of different designs. Sheep got me. Let's see here. These are decorations. Oh no, these are canvas prints. So it's a pretty cool looking print. Here's what sheep got me. Hold on. This one. It's an LED mouse pad. It's a big one for my mouse and my keyboard and everything. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's pretty cool. Obviously, it doesn't come with anything else, but it looks neat. All shiny and shit. It's got lights. Lights are cool. This is cute, the woke games. Let's see what else I got. Notebooks. I really want to get, where is it? Is it that one? No, I think it's this one. I like this one. This one looks neat. How much you have? 10 months of expenses I can live off. Nice. Smart man. Plus, I'm building my Instagram to entice some contract worth for voiceovers, acting with small businesses. Very good, Shadow Warden. I'm really glad to hear that. Sounds like you'll do just fine. But yeah, I've been looking for a cute notebook forever. And these are actually kind of nice. Drop the base. Those cute little pandas. This is interesting. What's this? Yes, and I will. Oh, I didn't. Whatever. I go to film philanthropy. I want to have film festivals, networking events, and cross promotion. With people working together, gain and strengthen their skills. Very cool. And hopefully we can help get it to work out. Yeah, that's what I want. I want the utility notebook. He's cute. Oh, that's cute too. I like their logo. So yeah, if you're interested in any of that, you can pop by there and get yourself some and save 10%. I'll be buying myself a little here in a little bit. Since starting that Insta, I've gotten 3 bites on contract work. Very cool. So yeah, it sounds like everything's going to be okay. My buddy Donnie is thinking about doing a podcast, and he seems he might have me on with him. Oh, cool. Feels weird at first to do, but once you get into it, it's really fun. So does anybody want to hear the fable of the fox and the stork? I should have some music or something on in the background, shouldn't I? Wonder how I can do that. You have a good voice for reading. At the very least, I can put people to sleep, huh? 9, just kidding. You want to hear 9 of them? Okay, I can read 9 of them. Let me find some royalty-free music to play in the background. Hold on. I think, yeah, I have something. Just gotta find it. Do, 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 do. Oh, come on. Do, do, do. I need something that's not going to charge me money. I think that'll work. Can you guys hear that okay? Does it sound too awful? How about now? Too quiet now? Better? You don't hear anything? Good now? All right. That will work then. In case you're really into this, this is Ron Gelinas Chill Beats on YouTube. At the worst, I get copyright struck or some shit. Content ID'd or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Alrighty. So the fox and the stork. A fox one day invited a stork to dine with him, and, wishing to be amused at his expense, put the soup which he had for dinner in a large flat dish, so that while he himself could lap it up quite easily, the stork could only dip in the tips of his long bill. Some time after, the stork, bearing his treatment in mind, invited the fox to take dinner with him. He, in turn, put some minced meat in a long and narrow-necked vessel, into which he could easily put his bill, while Master Fox was forced to be content with licking what ran down the sides of the vessel. The fox then remembered his old trick, and could not but admit that the stork had well paid him out. A joke is often returned with interest. I think that's the fun part of these, is they actually have a meaning. Jupiter and the Camel. The camel, once upon a time, complained to Jupiter that he was not well served as he ought to be in the means of defense and offense. The bull, he said, has horns, the boar, tusks, and the lion and tiger, formidable claws and fangs that make them feared and respected on all sides. I, on the other hand, have to put up with the abuse of all who choose to insult me. Jupiter angrily told him that if he would take the trouble to think, he would see that he was given qualities shared by no other beast, and that, as punishment for his foolish complaints, his ears should be shortened. And the moral of this story is individuals do not always know what's best for them. Not always, but generally they have a better idea than everybody else. So I'm not sure I agree with that lesson. Also doesn't really make sense if you listen to the story. The camel didn't get, like, anything except for his ears shortened. What? Anyway. The dog and the oyster. A dog used to eating eggs saw an oyster and, opening his mouth to its widest extent, swallowed it down with utmost relish, supposing it to be an egg. Soon afterwards, suffering great pain in his stomach, he said, "I deserve all this torment for my folly in thinking that everything round must be an egg." They who act without sufficient thought will often fall into unsuspected danger. And that one's true. I'm gonna get my legs lengthened. Why? Why would you get your legs lengthened? The woman and the hen. A woman had a hen that laid an egg every day. The fowl was of a superior breed, and the eggs were very fine and sold for a good price. The woman thought that by giving the hen twice as much food as she had been in the habit of giving, the bird might be brought to lay 2 eggs a day instead of 1. So the quantity of food was doubled. The hen thereupon grew very fat and stopped laying altogether. The moral of this story is figures are not always facts. Interesting. Hey Stardust, how you doing? I don't see Darylyn. No, Metastep is not Darylyn. Darylyn is Darylyn. The Wolf and the Lamb. A hungry wolf one day saw a lamb drinking at a stream below him and wished to find some excuse for eating her. What do you mean by I am muddying the waters as... What do you mean by muddying the water I am going to drink? He said fiercely to the lamb. Pray forgive me, meekly answered the lamb. I should be sorry in any way to displease you, but as the stream runs from you towards me, you will see that I am not to blame. That's all very well, said the wolf, but you know you spoke ill of me behind my back a year ago. Nay, believe me, replied the lamb. I was not then born. It must have been your brother then, growled the wolf. It cannot have been, for I never had any, answered the lamb. I know it was one of your lot, rejoined the wolf, so make no such idle excuses. He then seized the poor lamb and carried her off to the woods and ate her. The moral of this story is the wicked always find an excuse for wrongdoing. And that one, oh my God, is so true. You just have to look at the world around us right now. The government, the people who hate Eric, the people who hate just about anything. They always find a reason, an excuse that what they're doing is the right thing to do. And funny enough, their actions always benefit more than them than anybody else. Tries to remember the website that has all these stories and more. There are a lot of websites out there with these stories and more. I'm actually reading a real book, though. I'm using a book. Yeah, Darylyn did say he was thinking about making himself taller at one point. No, okay. Hold on. Not if you ask them, Derp. If you ask them, they have a reason for it. But that's why the moral, the wicked always find an excuse for wrongdoings is an accurate statement. Of course, go right ahead, Jack. I think it's okay for you to do that on YouTube. I don't remember changing settings or anything that would make that hard for you to do. Let me know if it gives you any problem. Just me reading stories, Shadow Warden. Nothing too exciting. Jupiter and the Bee. A bee made Jupiter a present of a pot of honey, which was so kindly taken that the god bade her ask what she would, and it should be granted to her. The bee then desired that wherever she should set her sting, it might wound to the death. Jupiter was loath to leave mankind at the mercy of a spiteful little insect, and was annoyed at the ill nature of her wish. He therefore said that while, for his promise's sake, he would give her the power to harm, she must be careful how she used the power, for where she planted her sting, she would leave it, and with it lose her life. The moral of the story is evil brings evil in return. Eric hasn't done anything wrong. He just started a business and people are pissed off about it. The Wolf, the She-Goat, and the Kid. A she-goat, leaving her house one morning to look for food, told her kid to bolt the door and to open to no one who did not give a password, a plague on the wolf and all his tribe. A wolf who was lurking about unseen by the goat heard her words, and when she was gone, came and tapped at the door, imitating her voice, and said, "A plague on the wolf and all his tribe." He made sure that the door would be opened at once, but the kid, whose suspicions were aroused, replied, "Show me your beard, and I will let you in at once." The moral of this story is, double proof is surest. It's one of those trust but verify situations. You can trust somebody, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't double check their work. Or that they're not lying to you, because sometimes people lie without meaning to. Or just give you wrong information. The Bat and the Weasel. A weasel seized upon a bat, who begged hard for her life. "No, no," said the weasel, "I will give no quarter to birds." "Birds!" cried the bat. "I am no bird, I am a mouse. Look at my body." And so she got off that time. A few days later, after she fell into the clutches of another weasel, the bat cried for mercy. "No," said the weasel, "no mercy to a mouse." "But," said the bat, "you can see from my wings that I am a bird." And she escaped that time as well. Moral of this story: it is good to have two strings to one's bow. Always good to have a backup plan. These are really short, aren't they? The Dog and the Hides. Some dogs, famished with hunger, saw some cowhides steeping in a river. Not being able to reach them, they agreed to drink up the river. But it fell out that they had burst themselves with drinking long before they reached the hides. Moral of that story: attempt not impossibilities. I might eventually. I won't do it tonight because that's a longer poem than you think. It's my favorite, but it's definitely longer than you think. And I don't know, if we enjoy this evening and things go well, maybe I'll do some other reading. There are plenty of horror stories and stuff out there. I have a Lovecraft book. I have a Poe book. I also have Grimm's fairy tales. All sorts of other fairy tales for that matter. Though technically some of these books are sheep, so I'm a woman, I take them anyway. As long as I don't ruin them, who cares? The Wanton Calf. A calf full of play and wantonness, seeing an ox at the plough, could not forbear insulting him. "What a sorry old drudge you are," he said, "to bear that heavy yoke upon your neck, and plough at your tail all day to go turning up the ground for a master. You are a wretched slave and know no better, or you would not do it. See what a happy life I lead. I just go where I please. Sometimes in the cool shade, sometime in the warm sunshine, and whenever I like. I drink at the clear running brook." The ox, not at all moved by this address, went on quietly and calmly with his work, and in the evening, when unyoked and going to take his rest, he saw the calf being led off by the butcher. He pitied him, but could not help but saying as he passed, "Now, my friend, whose condition is better, yours or mine?" The moral: youth and folly often live together. Question about your Poe book: is it silver? No, mine's like one of the ones you get at Barnes and Noble. The Fighting Cocks. Yes, I said cocks. Two cocks fought for the sovereignty of the farmyard. One was severely beaten and ran and hid himself in a hole. The conqueror flew to the top of an outhouse there and clapped his wings and crowed out victory. Just then an eagle made a swoop, seized him, and carried him off. The other, seeing this from his hiding place, came out and, shaking off the recollection of his late disgrace, strutted among his hens with all the dignity imaginable. The moral of the story: bear success with moderation. Over-celebrating can definitely cause you problems. Yes, I thought you would like that, Sleazy. time to cross swords. Yes, there is definitely sword crossing. Though somebody lost theirs. The lion's share. The lion and several other beasts once agreed to live peaceably together in the forest, each sharing equally all the spoils of hunting. One day, a fine fat stag fell into a snare set by the goat, who, thereupon, called the rest together. The lion divided the stag into 4 parts, taking the best piece for himself. He said, "This is mine, of course, as I am the lion." Taking another portion, he added, "This, too, is mine by right, the right, if you must know, of the strongest." Further putting aside the 3rd piece, "That's for the most valiant," he said, "and as for the remaining part, touch it, if you dare." The moral is might makes right. So basically, everybody had to get together and beat up the lion if they wanted any food. But what the fuck is a goat doing eating stag anyway? They're really not meat eaters. I mean, they can, but it's not normally their usual fare, you know? The ass, the ape, and the mole. Hey, Sleazy's in this story. An ass and an ape were one day grumbling together over their grievances. "My ears are so long that people laugh at me," said the ass. "I wish I had horns like the ox." "And I," said the ape, "am really ashamed to turn my back upon anyone. Why should I not have a fine bushy tail as well as that saucy fellow the fox?" "Hold your tongues, both of you," said a mole that overheard them, "and be thankful for what you have. The poor moles have no horns at all, no tail to speak of, and are nearly blind as well." The moral of the story: we should never complain, so long as there are others worse off than ourselves. I'm a bull. No, you would be the ass. The lion, the tiger, and the fox. A lion and a tiger happened to come together over the dead body of a fawn that had been recently shot. A fierce battle ensued, and as each animal was in the prime of his age and strength, the combat was long and furious. At last they lay stretched on the ground, panting and bleeding and exhausted, each unable to lift a paw against the other. An impudent fox, coming by at the time, stepped in and carried off before their eyes the prey, on account of which they had both fought so savagely. "Woe betide us," said the lion, "that we should suffer so much to serve a fox." The moral: it often happens that one has the toil and another has the profit. Well, in this case, I think a better moral for that story is probably, instead of fighting, maybe find a way to share, so that you don't have to let somebody else steal your find. But, you know, it is what it is. The cat and the mice. "Hey, good citizen, how you doing?" A certain house was much infested by mice. The owner brought home a cat, a famous mouser, who soon made such havoc among the little folk that those who were left stayed closely in the upper shelves. Then the cat grew hungry and thin, and driven to her wit's end, hung by her hind legs from a peg in the wall, and pretended to be dead, in order that the mice would no longer be afraid to come near her. An old mouse came to the edge of the shelf, and seeing through the trick, cried out, "Aha! Miss Pussy, we should not come near you, even if your skin were stuffed with straw." Okay, this moral doesn't make sense. Old birds are not to be caught with chaff. think that means that old birds are less likely to go through the non-seed bearing part of the straw. Or wheat. Interesting. Sharing is scary, begone commie poet. Hey, there's room for sharing in capitalism. Two frogs lived in the same pool. The hot summer came and dried it up, so that they were forced to set forth in search of other water. As they went along, they chanced to find a deep well full of cool water. "Let us jump in here," cried one of the frogs. "Wait a bit," said the other. "That should dry up. How could we get out again?" The moral is easier in than out. And to think ahead. Know your escape routes. It's an important thing to know. The Peacock's Complaint. The peacock complained to Juno that while everyone laughed at his voice, an insignificant creature like the nightingale had a note that delighted all listeners. Juno, angry at the unreasonableness of her favorite bird, scolded him in the following terms. "Envious bird that you are, I am sure you have no cause to complain. On your neck shine all the colors of the rainbow, and your extended tail gleams like a mass of gems. No living being has every good thing to its own share. The falcon is endowed with swiftness, the eagle strength, the parrot speech, the raven the gift of augury, and the nightingale a melodious note, while you have both size and beauty. Cease then to complain, or the gifts you have shall be taken away." You don't really have fair trade without capitalism. Or free trade without capitalism. Free trade is a part of capitalism. To be fair, Shadow, he just said sharing is caring. He didn't say what he cared about. Future self-interest is something to care about. Did I say the moral? Contentment should be the source of every joy. I don't remember if I said that or not. It's a kind of meh moral. There are many reasons to share derp. The man and his two wives. Monopolies are only established and kept in place by the government. Capitalism and government are two different things. While under capitalism there can be a monopoly, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Free trade is only an act of capitalism, really. Yeah. Capitalism and government are two different things. Regulatory bullshit has nothing to do with capitalism. Capitalism is economy, not government. Regulations are government. And government and economy should not be the same thing. Matter of fact, government should be removed entirely from economy, but that's a different issue. Yes, again, that's a government issue. The thing that prevents free trade is government, not capitalism. Right, another government issue. But that's why I don't like government. Government is nine times out of 10 the problem, yes. The man and his 2 wives. In a country where men could have more than one wife, a certain man, whose head was fast becoming white, had 2. One little older than himself, and one much younger. The young wife, being gay and lively turn, did not want people to think she had an old man for a husband, and so used to pull out as many of his white hairs as she could. The old wife, on the other hand, did not wish to seem older than her husband, and so used to pull out all the black hairs. This went on until between them both, they made the poor man quite bald. The moral of the story is no man can belong to 2 parties at once. 2 wives would drive anybody mad, citizen. And as you can tell, they drove this one bald. The Countryman and the Snake. A countryman, one frosty day in the depths of winter, found a snake under a hedge almost dead with cold. Taking pity on the poor creature, he brought it home and laid it on the hearth near the fire. Revived by the heat, it reared itself up and with dreadful hissing flew at the wife and children of its benefactor. The countryman, hearing their cries, rushed in and seized a mattock soon cut the snake into pieces. Vile wretch, he said. Is this the reward you make for him who saved your life? Die as you deserve, but a single death is too good for you. The moral of the story is ingratitude is a crime. Can't keep them in the kitchen all the time, Sleazy. They gotta come out eventually. I will never understand why people think keeping the women in the kitchen is a good idea. Do you guys not know where all the sharp objects and poisonous things are? They're in the kitchen. Do you know who are most likely to kill through poison? Women. Hello. Giving us all that cleaning shit. What, Warden? What? That makes no sense. That's because we're cooking all the time. That's just logic. Well, it depends on how fast your kids die, derp. Could have had carbon extracting algae based gasoline if the US government did heavily tax companies like UPS. So what you're saying is you want your rate of shipping to go up? No, Metastep, that did not sound right. Go ahead and try again. We'll ignore the first time. That's better. The Kite and the Pigeon. By the way, kite is a bird in this case, for those of you who don't know. We are the carbon. Yes, we are in fact the carbon they want to get rid of. A kite that had kept sailing around a dovecote looking for a nice fat pigeon. Oh, damn it. Let me try again. A kite that had kept sailing around a dovecote looking for a nice fat pigeon for many days to no purpose was forced by hunger to have recourse to stratagem. Approaching the pigeons in his gentlest manner, he tried to show them how much better their state would be if they had a king with some firmness about him, and how well his protection would shield them from the attacks of the hawk and other enemies. The pigeons, deluded by this show of reason, admitted him to the dovecote as their king. They found, however, that he thought it part of his kingly prerogative to eat one of their number every day, and they soon repented of their credulity in having let him in. Oh, they exclaimed in despair, we deserve no better. Why did we heed the counsel of an enemy? The moral of the study is, the moral of the story is, trust not your security to one who puts his own interests first. If that doesn't say fuck the government, I don't know what does. Two crabs. My dear, called out an old crab to her daughter one day, why do you sit along in that awkward manner? Why don't you go forward like other people? Well, mother, answered the young crab, it seems to me that I go exactly like you do. Go first and show me how, and I will gladly follow. Moral of the story is example is better than precept. The Hawk and the Nightingale. A nightingale once fell into the clutches of a hungry hawk who had been all day on the lookout for food. Pray let me go, said the nightingale. I am such a mite for a stomach like yours. I sing so nicely, too. Do let me go. It will do you good to hear me. Much good it will do on an empty stomach, replied the hawk. And besides, a little bird that I have is more to me than a great one that has yet to be caught. And the moral of this story is, of course, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. For those of you who have heard that saying. Do I need to explain that one to anybody? I know they don't teach this stuff anymore. Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying, Shadow. Okay. You're saying they did. Okay, I got it. The owner was trying to research a gas alternative that would be equally as useful for your average gas car by using algae that extracts carbon from the air, but the taxation caused him to stop. Yes. We've again circled back around to my favorite mantra here. Fuck the government. Goddamn government. Yes, YouTube. I'm going to say that over and over again until you get rid of me. Just for the record. Oh, also, one time I got two birds stoned at once. Yes, I'm sure you did, Minister. The body and its members. The members of the body once rebelled against him. They said he led an idle, lazy life at their expense. The hands declared that they would not again lift a crust to even keep him from starving. The mouth that it would not take in a bit more food. The legs that they would carry him about no longer, and so on with the others. The body quietly allowed them to follow their own courses, well knowing that they would all soon come to their senses, as indeed they did, for when, for want of the blood and nourishment supplied from the stomach, they found themselves fast becoming mere skin and bone. The moral is, no one can live to himself, but must take account of his neighbor's needs. Unless you live out in the middle of nowhere, then you can do it. But yeah, if you're close to people, you typically have to take them into somewhat of a consideration. Just don't go all commie. Why not? All right. The Spendthrift and the Swallow. A prodigal young fellow who had run through all his money and even sold all his outer clothes except his cloak, saw a swallow skimming over the meadows one fine day in early spring. Believing that summer was really come, he sold his cloak too. The next morning there happened to be a severe frost, and, shivering and nearly frozen himself, he found the swallow lying stiff and dead upon the ground. He thereupon upbraided the poor bird as the cause of all his misfortunes. "Stupid thing," he said, "had you not come before your time, I should not now be so wretched." The moral of the story is, be not ready to believe rumors. Imagine the stoned ramblings of a parrot. Oh dear God. No thank you. Okay. The stag at the pool. A stag, drinking at a clear pool, admired the handsome look of his spreading antlers, but was much displeased at the slim and ungainly appearance of his legs. "What a glorious pair of branching horns," he said. "How gracefully they hang over my forehead. What a fine air they give my face. But as for my spindle shanks of legs, I am heartily ashamed of them." The words were scarcely out of his mouth when he saw some huntsmen and a pack of hounds making towards him. His despised legs soon placed him at a distance from the followers, but on entering the forest, his horns got entangled at every turn, so that the dogs soon reached him and made an end of him. "Fool that I was," he gasped at his last breath. "Had it not been for those wretched horns, my legs would have saved my life." The moral of the story is, beauty may have fair leaves and bitter fruit. We'll talk philosophy or random words. Probably random words. The jackdaw and the pigeons. A jackdaw, seeing how well some pigeons and a certain dovecote fed, and how happily they lived together, wished much to join them. With this view, he whitened his feathers and slipped in one evening just as it was getting dark. As long as he kept quiet, he escaped notice, but growing bolder by degrees and feeling very jolly in his new quarters, he burst into a hearty laugh. His voice betrayed him. The pigeons set upon him and drove him out. When he would afterwards have joined the jackdaws again, his discolored feathers and his battered state drew attention to him and his former mates. Finding out what he had been at, would let him have no further part with them. The moral of the story is, he who pursues... Anyway, try that again. He who pursues two courses succeeds with neither. I should stop crunching my ice into the microphone, shouldn't I? Oh dear Lord, Derp. I'm an idiot outlaw, half parakeet and hot dog. My baby, she's a chicken frog. She's a one of a kind. Yes, that would definitely be one of a kind. Anyway. Dear Lord. The fox without a tail. A fox was once caught in a trap by his tail, and in order to get away was forced to leave it behind. Knowing that without a tail he would be the laughingstock for all his fellows, he resolved to try to induce them to part with theirs. So at the next assembly of foxes, he made a speech on the unprofitableness of tails in general, and the inconvenience of a fox's tail in particular, adding that he never felt so easy as since he had given up his own. When he sat down, A sly old fellow rose, and waving his long brush with a graceful air, said, with a sneer, that if, like the last speaker, he had lost his tail, nothing further would have been needed to convince him, but till such an accident happened, he should certainly vote in favor of tails. The moral is, guard against those who would wish you to be reduced to their own level. Huh. Doesn't that sound familiar? Always people out here trying to get you to change for them, as opposed to just letting you be you. The mischievous dog. A rascally dog used to run quietly to the heels of every passerby and bite them without warning. So his master was obliged to tie a bell around the cur's neck, that he might give notice wherever he went. This the dog thought very fine indeed, and he went about tinkling it in pride all over town. But an old hound said, "Why do you make such a fool of yourself? That bell is not a mark of merit, but of disgrace." The moral of the story is notoriety is often mistaken for fame. I think we can think of a group of people that applies to. Maybe it applies to me. Am I notorious? I'm certainly not famous. The collier and the fuller. A friendly collier, meeting one day with the fuller, an acquaintance of his, kindly invited him to come and share his house. "1,000 thanks for your civility," replied the fuller, "but I'm rather afraid that as fast as I make anything clean, you will be smutting it again." This makes no sense. The moral is, good conduct is often corrupted by false knowledge. I don't understand that one. The Bald Knight. A certain knight, who wore a wig to conceal his baldness, was out hunting one day. A sudden gust of wind carried away his wig and showed his bald pate. His friends all laughed heartily at the odd figure he made, but the old fellow, so far from being put out, laughed as heartily as any of them. "Is it any wonder," he said, "that another man's hair shouldn't keep on my head when mine own wouldn't stay there?" The moral of the story is, every event has its reason. The Eagle and the Crow. A crow watched an eagle swoop with majestic air from a cliff upon a flock of sheep and carry away a lamb in his talons. The whole thing looked so graceful and so easy that the crow at once proceeded to imitate it, and, pouncing upon the back of the largest and fattest ram he could see, he tried to make off with it. He found that he could not move the ram, and his claws got so entangled in the animal's fleece that he could not get away himself. He, therefore, became easy prey to the shepherd, who, coming upon at the time, caught him, cut his wings, and gave him to his children for a plaything. Oh, dear Lord. They came crowding about their father and asked him what strange bird that was. "Why," he said, "he'll tell you himself that he's an eagle. But you take my word for it, I know him to be a crow." The moral is, 'tis folly to attempt what you are unable to perform. Hi, Bjorn. Yes, this is in fact Aesop's Fables. The Owl and the Nightingale. A formal, solemn owl had for many years made his habitation in a grove amongst the ruins of an old monastery, and had pored so often over some old moldy manuscript, the stupid relics of a monkish library, that he grew infected with the pride and pedantry. Motherfucker. I'm going to go with pedantry of the place. Hey, psychotic mongoose, how you doing? Mistaking gravity for wisdom, he would sit whole days with his eyes half shut, fancying himself profoundly learned. It happened as he sat one evening, half buried in meditation and half in sleep, that a nightingale, unluckily perching near him, began her melodious lays. He started from his reverie, and with a horrid screech interrupted her song. "Begone," he cried, "thou impertinent minstrel, nor distract with noisy dissonance my sublime contemplation. And know, vain songster, that harmony consists in truth alone, which is gained by laborious study, and not in languishing notes, fit only to soothe the ear of a lovesick maid." "Conceited pedant," returned the nightingale, "whose wisdom lies only in the feathers that muffle up thy unmeaning face. Music is a natural and rational entertainment, and though not adapted to the ears of an owl, has ever been relished and admired by the best formed minds. The moral is, it is natural for a pedant, I got it now, pedant to despise those arts that polish our manners, and that would extirpate. Oh my god! I swear, guys, I can read. Pedantry. Oh my gosh. Oh, I've heard of those, but never heard any of them. We have our own in Swedish. Yes, there are fables and tales all over the world. I very much enjoy all forms of fairy tales and stories. It's a little weird to be reading these in my favorite month of October, Halloween. But it's the first time I'm kind of doing this kind of hangout, and it was an easy book to grab. So don't mind my random musings in between the stories, and my inability to read occasionally. The Spider and the Silkworm. The spider, busied in spreading his web from one side of the room to the other, was asked by an industrious silkworm to what end he spent so much time and labor in making such a number of lines and circles. The spider angrily replied, "Do not disturb me, thou ignorant thing. I transmit my ingenuity to posterity, and fame in the object of my wishes." Just as he had spoken, Susan, the chambermaid, coming into the room to feed her silkworms, saw the spider at his work, and with one stroke of her broom swept him away, and destroyed at once his labors and his hopes of fame. The moral of the story is, he that is employed in works of use generally advantages himself or others, while he who toils for fame alone must expect often to lose his labor. Better take a drink because I think I'm starting to talk funny. Hey JJ, how you doing? Caesar and the Slave. During a visit that Tiberius Caesar paid to one of his country residences, he observed that, whenever he walked in the grounds, a certain slave was always a little way ahead of him, busily watering the paths. Turn which way he would, go where he might, there was the fellow still fussing about with his watering pot. He felt sure that he was making himself thus needlessly officious in the hope of thereby gaining his liberty. In making a slave free, part of the ceremony consisted in giving him a gentle stroke on one side of the face. Hence, when the man came running up in eager expectation at the call of the emperor, the latter said to him, "I have for a long time observed you meddling where you had nothing to do, and while you might have been better employed elsewhere, you are mistaken if you think I can afford a box on the ear at so low a price as you bid for it. The moral of the story is being busy does not always mean being useful. Oh my god, if more people understood that. You heard Sleazy. Hit the like button, please. I'd appreciate it. And Derp's about to do his haiku. Meanwhile, I will read The Man and the Lion. A man and a lion once argued together as to which belonged to the nobler race. The man called the attention of the lion to a monument on which was a sculpted man striding over a fallen lion. That proves nothing at all, said the lion. If a lion had been the carver, he would have made a lion striding over the man. The moral of the story is men are but sorry witnesses to their own cause. I love that. Now to read Derp's haiku. Many fables spoke. A nice, relaxing night stream. My wine is calming. Haikus are really one of the weirdest ones. Yes, Bjorn, I absolutely believe parents should read fables to their kids. Fables and fairy tales have a very important place in society, and we're at a place where people seem to be sweeping them under the rug because they might upset the children or the parents, and it's very depressing. The Ox and the Frog. An ox grazing in a meadow chanced to set his foot on a young frog and crushed him to death. His brothers and sisters, who were playing near, at once ran to tell their mother what had happened. The monster that did it, mother, was such a size, said they. The mother, who was a vain old thing, thought that she could easily make herself as large. Was it as big as this? She asked, blowing her and puffing herself out. Oh, much bigger than that, replied the young frogs. As this, then? She cried, puffing and blowing again with all her might. Nay, mother, they said, if you were to try till you burst yourself, you would never be so big. The silly old frog tried to puff herself out still more, and burst herself indeed. The moral of the story is people are ruined by attempting a greatness to which they have no claim. It's called being too big for your britches. Excuse me. The Fox and the Cat. A fox and a cat, traveling together, beguiled the tediousness of their journey by moralizing. Of all the moral virtues, exclaimed the fox, mercy is surely the noblest. What say you, my sage friend? Is it not so? Undoubtedly, replied the cat, with a most demure countenance. Nothing is more becoming than a creature of any sensibility than compassion. While they were thus complimenting each other on the wisdom of their views, a wolf darted out from the wood upon a flock of sheep, which were feeding in an adjacent meadow, and without being in the least affected by the piteous cries of a poor lamb, devoured it before their eyes. Horrible cruelty, exclaimed the cat. Why does he not feed on vermin instead of making his barbarous meals on such innocent creatures? The fox agreed with his friend in the observation, to which he added some very pathetic remarks on the odiousness of such conduct. Their indignation was rising in its warmth and zeal as they arrived at a little cottage by the wayside, where the tender-hearted fox immediately cast his eye upon a fine cock that was strutting about in the yard. And now, adieu moralizing, he leapt over the pales and without any sort of scruple demolished his prize in an instant. In the meanwhile, a plump mouse ran out of the stable, totally put to flight our cat's philosophy, who fell on the repast without the least commiseration. The moral is it is a common habit to talk of what is right and good, and to do what is quite the reverse. Yep. We all have our exception cases. The Ape and the Carpenter. An ape sat looking at a carpenter who was cleaving a piece of wood in two with a wedge. Hold on. Let me start that again, because I misread that. An ape sat looking at a carpenter who was cleaving a piece of wood with two wedges, which he put into the cleft of one after another as the split opened. The carpenter leaving his work half done, the ape must need try his hand at log splitting, and coming to the piece of wood, pulled out the wedge that was in without knocking in the other. The wood closing again held the poor monkey by his forepaws so fast that he was not able to get away. The surly carpenter, when he returned, knocked the prisoner's brains out for meddling with his work. The moral of the story is, it is easier to get into mischief than to get out again. Also true. Very true. Then buy bigger britches, Metastep. The Woodcock and the Mallard. A woodcock and a mallard were feeding together in some marshy ground at the tail of a mill pond. "Lord," said the squeamish woodcock, "in what voracious and beastly manner do you devour all that comes before you? Neither snail, frog, toad, nor any kind of filth can escape the fury of your enormous appetite. All alike goes down, without measure and without distinction. What an odious vice is gluttony!" "Good lack," replied the mallard, "pray, how came you to be my accuser? And whence has your excessive delicacy a right to censure my plain eating? It is a crime to fill one's belly, or is it not indeed a virtue, rather, to be pleased with the food which nature offers us? Surely I would sooner be charged with gluttony than with that finical and sickly appetite on which you are pleased to ground your superiority of taste. What a silly vice is daintiness!" Thus, endeavoring to palliate their respective passions, our epicures parted with a mutual contempt. The mallard, hasting to devour some garbage, which was in reality a bait, immediately gorged a hook through mere greediness and oversight, while the woodcock, flying through the glade in order to seek his favorite juices, was entangled in a net, spread across it for that purpose, failing each of them thus a sacrifice to different, but equal, foibles. Don't call me Shirley. Hey, Savage, how you doing? A voracious appetite and a fondness for dainties equally distract our attention from more material concerns. Yep. Don't ever be on either side of the extremes. We're just reading some Aesop's fables here. Chilling out. Listening to some music. Excuse me. The Swallow and the Serpent. A swallow, returning from abroad, and ever fond of dwelling with men, built herself a nest in the wall of a court of justice, and there hatched 7 young birds. A serpent, gliding past the nest from its hole in the wall, ate up the young unfledged nestlings. The swallow, finding her nest empty, lamented greatly, and exclaimed, "Woe to me, a stranger, that in this place, where all others' rights are protected, I alone should suffer wrong." The moral of the story is, do not place too great confidence in outward form. Yeah. I am doing my homework. Lovely diversity module for my mandatory course I have to take. Oh God, that sucks. I'm sorry, Savage. thing I have been doing for 4 years without the training. Yeah, you distract me from the monotony list. Oh, well, I'm glad you find it soothing. I do actually like these stories a lot. The brother and the sister. A certain man had 2 children, a boy and a girl. The lad was a handsome fellow, but the girl was as plain as a girl can well be. The sister, provoked beyond endurance by the way in which her brother looked in the glass, and made remarks to her disadvantage, went to her father and complained of it. The father drew his children to him very tenderly and said, "My dears, I wish you both to look in the glass every day. You, my son, seeing your faces handsome, may take care not to spoil it by ill temper and bad behavior. And you, my daughter, may be encouraged to make up for your want of beauty by the sweetness of your manners and the grace of your conversation." The moral of the story is, handsome is as handsome does. Yep, they are good stories. I like how these stories get straight to the point. The story without wearing out their welcome. Yeah, fables have always been very short. Some of them don't make a lot of sense, though. I'm thinking that might be a current day issue. The Frogs and the Fighting Bulls. A frog, one day peeping out of a marsh, saw 2 bulls fighting at some distance off in the meadow. "Alas, my friends," he cried to his fellow frogs, "whatever will become of us?" "Why, what are you frightened at?" asked one of the frogs. "What can their quarrel have to do with us? They are only proving which shall be master of the herd." "True," said the first, "and it is just that which causes my fear. For the one that is beaten will take refuge here in the marshes and will tread us to death." And so it happened, and many frogs, in dying, had sore proof that the fears in which he thought to be groundless were not so in fact. The moral of the story is, coming events often cast their shadow before. Oh my god, if that's not true. The Leopard and the Fox. The leopard, one day in hearing of the fox, was very loud in the praise of his own beautiful spotted skin. The fox thereupon told him that, handsome as he might be, he considered that he himself was yet a great deal handsomer. "Your beauty is of the body," said the fox. "Mine is of the mind." The moral of the story is, beauty is skin deep. The 3 Vases. By a lifetime of scraping, a miser once hoarded up a large quantity of gold, which he placed in 3 vases and buried. When at length, being on his deathbed, he called his 3 sons to him, and informed them of the treasure he had left them, and of the spot in which it lay hid, in 3 separate vases, one for each of them. He could not finish all he had to say. A fainting fit seized him, and he expired. Now, as the young men had never seen these vases, they concluded that in all probability they would differ in size and value. And as their father died before he could assign to each his particular vase, oh my god, that business must be settled by them. Thus, on the division of their wealth, they entered into warm dispute, each laying claim to the largest vase. One because he was the eldest, the second because he had no property and lands to support him, and the youngest because he was the favorite of his father, and therefore was sure the largest share would have been bequeathed to him, and his dying parent, had his dying parent been but able to finish his last speech. Words at length ran very high and quickly came to blows, from which none of them escaped unhurt. When, after all this wrangle, ill blood, and mischief done, it was discovered, on digging up the 3 vases, that they were exactly equal in size and value. The moral of the story is, be sure of your cause before you quarrel. That's the cunning part. The Lion and the Mouse. A lion, tired with the chase, lay sleeping at full length under a shady tree. Some mice, scrambling over him while he slept, awoke him. Laying his paw upon one, he was about to crush him, when the mouse implored his mercy. "Spare me, O king," he said, "and maybe the day will come where I can be of service to you." The lion, tickled with the idea of the mouse helping him, lifted his paw and let the little creature go. Some time after, the lion was caught in a net laid by some hunters and, unable to free himself, made the forest resound with his roars. The mouse whose life had been spared, came, and with his little sharp teeth, soon gnawed the ropes asunder, and set the lion free. The moral of the story is the least may help the greatest. Never underestimate where help can come from. All right. The Stag in the Ox Stall. A stag, hard pressed by the hounds, ran for shelter into an ox stall, the door of which was open. One of the oxen turned round and asked him why he came to such a place as that, where he was sure to be taken. The stag replied that he should do well enough if the oxen would not tell of him, and, covering himself in a heap of straw, waited for the night. Several servants, and even the overseer herself, came and looked around, but saw nothing of the stag, who, as each went away, was ready to jump out of his skin for joy, and warmly thanked the oxen for their silence. The ox, who had spoken first to him, warned him not to be too sure of his escape, and said that, glad as they would all be for him to get away, there was a certain person still to come, whose eyes were a deal sharper than the eyes of anyone who had been there yet. This was the master himself, who, having been dining with a neighbor, looked in on his way home to see that all was right. At a glance he saw the tips of the horns coming through the straw, whereupon he raised a hue and cry, and called all his people together, and made a prize of the stag. Moral of the story: the eye of the master does more than all his servants. The Fox and the Goat. A fox once fell into a well and tried vainly for a long time to get out again. At last, a foolish goat came by and asked the fox if the water were good. "Splendid," said the wily fox. "It's so fine that I cannot get enough of it." The goat eagerly leaped in, when the fox, taking advantage of the other's horns, climbed out to safety. "If you had half as much brain as beard," said the fox as he sneaked away, "you would have bethought yourself how to get out before you got in." The moral of the story is: use a man as he deserves. Oof, that's kind of a mean one. The Eagle, the Cat, and the Sow. An eagle built her nest in the top branches of an old oak tree. A wild cat dwelled in a hole about the middle, and in the hollow part at the bottom. Let's try this again. An eagle built her nest in the top branches of an old oak tree. A wild cat dwelt in a hole about the middle, and in the hollow part at the bottom lived a sow with a whole litter of pigs. They might have remained there long in contentment, but the cat, bent upon mischief, climbed up one day to the eagle and said, "Neighbor, did you notice what the old sow who lives below us is doing? I believe she is determined upon nothing less than to root up this tree, our abode, and when it falls, she will devour our young ones. This put the eagle in a great fright, and she did not dare to stir from her home, lest the tree might fall in her absence. Creeping down to visit the sow, the wily cat said, "Listen to me, my friend. Last night I overheard that old bird who lives over our heads promise her young ones that the very next time you went out, they should have one of your dearest little porkers for supper." The sow, greatly alarmed in her turn, dare not quit her hollow. The mutual fear of the eagle and the sow became so great that they and their young ones were actually starved to death and fell prey to the designing old cat and her kittens. The moral of the story is too much belief is worse than too little. And like that can't constantly be applied lately. The sick kite. A kite who had been ill for a long time begged of his mother to go see all the temples in the country and see what prayers and promises could do for his recovery. The old kite replied, "My son, unless you can think of an altar that neither of us has robbed, I fear nothing can be done for you in that way." The moral of the story is, be in health what you wish to be when you are ill. That makes sense. A man one day was entertaining a lot of fellows with an account of the boasting traveler. Sorry, I forgot the previous follows. Fable reminds me of the mischievous squirrel. Ratosker? I don't know what that is. Ratatosker? Ratatosker? Let me know if I got that right. A man one day entering a lot of fellows with an account of the wonders he had done when abroad on his travels. "I was once at Rhodes," he said, "and the people of Rhodes, you know, are famous for jumping. Well, I took a jump there that no man could come within a yard of. That is a fact. And if we were there, I could bring you 10 men who could prove it." "What need is there to go to Rhodes for witnesses?" asked one of his hearers. "Just imagine that you are there now, and show us your leap." The moral of the story is seeing is believing. The ant and the fly. An ant and a fly one day disputed as to their respective merits. "Vile creeping insect," said the fly to the ant, "can you for a moment compare yourself with me? I soar on the wing like a bird. I enter the palaces of kings, and alight on the heads of princes, nay, of emperors, and only quit them to adorn the yet more attractive brow of beauty. Besides, I visit the altars of gods. Not a sacrifice is offered, but it is first tasted by me. Every feast, too, is open to me. I eat and drink of the best, and instead of living for days on 2 or 3 grains of corn, as you do." "That's all very fine," replied the ant, "but listen to me. You boasting of your feasting, but you know that your diet is not always so choice. You are sometimes forced to eat what nothing should induce me to touch. As for alighting on the heads of kings and emperors, you know very well that whether you pitch on the head of an emperor or of an ass, as it is often the one as the other, you are shaken off from both with impatience. And then, the altar of the gods, indeed. There are and everywhere else you are looked upon as nothing but a nuisance. In the winter, too, while I feed at my ease on the fruits of my toil, I often see your friends dying with cold, hunger, and fatigue. I will lose my time now in talking to you. Chattering will fill neither my bin nor my cupboard." The moral of the story is, bread earned by toil is sweet. That's a lesson more people stand to learn. Aesop at play. An Athenian once found Aesop joining merrily in the sports of some children. He ridiculed him for his want of gravity, and Aesop good-temperedly took took up a bow, unstrung it, and laid it at his feet. "There, friend," said he, "that bow, if kept always strained, would lose its spring and probably snap. Let it go free sometimes, and it will be the fitter for use when it is wanted." The moral of the story is wise play makes wise work. The Goat and the Boy. A boy whose business it was to look after some goats gathered them together as night began to fall to lead them home. One of the number refused to obey his call and stood on a ledge of rock, nibbling the herbage that grew there. The boy lost all patience and, taking up a stone, threw it at the goat with all his might. The stone struck one of the horns of the goat and broke it off at the middle. The boy, terrified at what he had done, and fearing his master's anger, threw himself upon his knees before the goat and begged her to say nothing to the master about the mishap, as it was far from his intention to aim the stone so well. "Tush," said the goat, "let my tongue be ever so silent. My horn is sure to tell a tale." The moral of the story is do not attempt to hide what cannot be hid. It's like the government. Yes, we're going to go there again. They're always lying to us about their bullshit. Even though it's right there in front of us, the sad thing is that some people believe them. Anyway, off the issue of the government. 2 pots. A river having overflowed its bank, 2 pots were carried along in the stream, one made of earthenware, and it will be all over with me, and on the bottom I shall go. The moral of the story is equals make the best friends. Interesting. I don't know that I agree with that one. Are you loading, Derp? Uh-oh, did I die? Everything's fine on my end. Why are we effing? Did somebody die? Oh, okay. You guys are freaking me out a little. That's weird. Okay. Didn't for you? That's weird. Apparently it just did it for some of you. Okay. The Lioness and the Fox. The fox once observed to the lioness that foxes were very much to be envied in the matter of fruitfulness. Scarcely a year passed that she, for instance, did not bring into the world a good litter of cubs, while some who had young only one at a time, and that not more than twice or thrice in their lives, looked down upon everybody else with contempt. The sneer was too pointed to be passed over in the silence. Oh my god, I think I'm going to try this again. I feel like I messed this up. The fox once observed the lioness that foxes were very much to be envied in the matter of fruitfulness. Scarcely a year passed that she, for instance, did not bring into the world a good litter of cubs, while some who had young only one at a time, and that not more than twice or thrice in their lives, looked down upon everybody else with contempt. This sneer was too pointed to be passed over in silence by the lioness, who replied with a good deal of fire, "What you say is true. You have a great many children, but what are they? Foxes. I only have one, but remember, that is a lion." The moral of the story is prefer quality to quantity. Okay, why is everybody hailing each other? I feel like we're at the end of the Walton. but I like you. The dog invited to supper. A certain rich man invited a person of high rank to sup with him. Great preparations were made for the repast, and all the delicacies of the season were provided. The dog of the host, having long wished to entertain another dog, a friend of his, thought this would be a capital time to ask him to come. And soon, therefore, as it fell dusk, the invited dog came and was shown by his friend into the kitchen. The sight of the food there filled him with astonishment, and he resolved that when the time came, he would eat enough to last him a week. Wagged his tail so hard and licked his chops with so much vigor that he attracted the notice of the head cook, who, seeing a strange dog about, caught him by the tail, and after giving him a swing in the air, sent him flying through the open window into the street. He limped away and was soon surrounded by a lot of curs to whom he had boasted of his invitation. They asked him eagerly how he had fared. "Oh, rarely," answered he. "I was treated so warmly that I hardly know how I got out of the house." Yay, congrats, Savage. The moral is, beware how you accept favors. Alright, I think I'll do one more, guys. And my throat's getting a little sore. And I think I'll probably call it a night. On the plus side, I guess I can go back and potentially chop this up and post it, huh? It's an idea. Anyway, the wolf and the crane. A wolf one day ate his food so greedily that a bone stuck in his throat, giving him a great pain. He ran howling up and down and offered to reward handsomely anyone who would pull it out. A crane, moved by pity as well by the prospect of the money, undertook the dangerous task. Having removed the bone, he asked for the promised reward. "Reward!" cried the wolf. "Pray, you greedy fellow, what reward can you possibly require? You have had your head in my mouth, and instead of biting it off, I have let you pull it out unharmed. Get away with you, and don't come again within reach of my paw." The moral of the story is know those whom you would serve. Know those whom you would serve. Okay, we can do another couple ones. These are so short, you do it and you kind of feel guilty, you know? The Fox and the Tiger. A skillful archer, coming into the woods, directed his arrows so well that the beasts fled in dismay. The tiger, however, told them not to be afraid. Excuse me. For he would singly engage their enemy and drive him from their domain. He had scarcely spoken when an arrow pierced his ribs and lodged in his side. The fox asked him slyly what he thought of his opponent now. "Ah," replied the tiger, writhing with pain, "I find I was mistaken in my reckoning." The moral of the story is, knowledge is power. Thank you, Savage. I really appreciate that. I just wish I was younger. But I will. I'm gonna read this last one, and then we're gonna call it a night. I'm gonna drink some hot tea because I get the feeling my throat's gonna be a little sore. All right. Honor, prudence, and pleasure. Honor, prudence, and pleasure undertook to keep house together. Honor was to govern the family, prudence to provide for it, and pleasure to conduct its arrangements. For some time they went on exceedingly well, and with great propriety. But after a while, pleasure getting the upper hand, began to carry mirth to extravagance, and filled the house with gay, idle, riotous company. And the consequent expenses threatened to ruin the establishment, so that Honor and Prudence, finding it absolutely necessary to break up the partnership, determined to quit the house and leave Pleasure to go on her own way, which did not continue long. As soon as she brought herself to poverty and came a begging to her former companions, who had now settled in another habitation. However, Honor and Prudence would never afterward admit Pleasure to be a partner in their household, but sent for her occasionally on holidays to make them merry, and in return, they maintained her out of their alms. The moral of the story is intemperance has an alluring aspect, but a dreadful retinue. You look far younger than me. Well, I look young, but I'm 41. I'm very lucky in that regard. What? But I am your age. It's not my fault. And 1982 is Unite. Woohoo! 1982 was a good year. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the stories. Same here, DJ. I also look younger than I am. I'm lucky that way. Ooh, Metastep's a whole 80. Was born in 83. Whole year younger. Congrats. I will catch you tomorrow night. We will be doing Baldur's Gate. I just kind of I did a stream earlier and kind of wanted something where I kind of just chilled and read and disco died so I could live. Nice. But yeah, Baldur's Gate tomorrow, 7 Days to Die, Saturday, Sunday, I don't know what we're doing. Monday will be Star Murata Animal Show with Starsan. Please feel free to check out. It's in the description. There's a link to Evil Lab, the Evil Laboratory. Sorry, I don't know why I keep on calling them labs. Evil Laboratory. You get 10% off with code HORRORAMARATA. So if you happen to be in the effort for any of that stuff, please definitely check them out. And maybe I will re-upload these fables as shorts. I don't see why not. So do those eventually anyway. Y'all have a very good afternoon, good evening, good night. And I will catch you tomorrow. Sweet dreams.